Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, and welcome to this horror franchise movie review video. As part of my current January 2024 series, where I'm taking a look at the entire Omen franchise from my Scream Factory Deluxe Edition, all 5 movies. Today, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the second sequel, the third movie in the franchise, and that's the Omen 3, The Final Conflict, or just The Final Conflict from 1981. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at it. And again, just like the second one, it's a movie that I hadn't seen ever before, so it was a first-time watch for me. Um, Omen 3, The Final Conflict, is a 1981 supernatural horror film directed by Graham Baker. It is the third installment in the Omen series. The film tells the story of the progression of the now adult Damien Thorne to a position of earthly power, set against the countdown to the second coming, and attempts of a group of priests to kill the Antichrist. Richard Donner, director of the first Omen film, returns as executive producer. So basically, the movie picks up with Damien as a 33-year-old adult now, and he ends up gaining this ambassador to the United Kingdom from the U.S. ambassador to the United Kingdom, appointed by the president when the current one is killed by suicide. At the same time, he basically he has his followers, of course, and he senses the second coming of Christ coming. So he works to try to put a stop to that. He also gets romantically involved with this reporter and her son. He tries to make one of his supporters as well. All for this big final conflict. This big final conflict, as the movie would suggest, going on at the end. So, yeah, he's basically placed in the same position that his father, Robert Thorne, in the first movie held. Now he's fully embraced his unholy lineage. He tends to reshape his destiny by halting the second coming of Christ. So that's the essence of the movie. As far as the cast goes, we have Sam Neill as Damien Thorne, Lisa Haro as Kate Reynolds, Rossano Brazia as Father DiCarlo, Don Gordon as Harvey Playdell Dean, Barnaby Holm as Peter Reynolds, Louine Willoughby as Barbara Dean, Mark Boyle as Brother Benito, and Milos Karek as Brother Martin, to name some of the cast. So that's the setup and the premise and the cast for The Final Conflict, Omen 3. I'm not going to lie, I really didn't enjoy this movie all that much. It's definitely another step down from the second movie, which was a step down from the first movie. If you like the movie, that's great. I'm not here to shit on it. It's just my opinion, but it just really didn't work for me. I have more cons than pros for this movie. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it with the things that I did like about the movie, the pros that I have for it. So the first thing I'll say, which I can say about all 3 of these movies for The Omen, is Jerry Goldsmith's score is still really solid. It gives the movie a lot more than it would otherwise have. It gives you those emotional beats that you're looking for in an Omen movie. It has that terror as well as that holiness that we come to expect, and it's executed really well. So that definitely continues from the first 2 movies. I think Sam Neill does a really good job playing the adult Damien Thorne. I think he plays it very well with the different emotional beats that he needs. Even though he's given some clunky and not great dialogue at times, I think he does well with it. Just the right balance of an ambitious politician and being the evil son of Satan, through seduction, through just the way he plays it. He does a really good job in that regard. So yeah, I really like Sam Neill in this movie. It's not his best performance by any means, but I still think he was a good choice for this adult version of Damien. I really like that this movie, like the second movie, has the continued continuity of the first 3 movies, where Damien is shown to be at different points in his life, from like 5 to 13 to 33 now, and kind of the essence of what that all entails with that character. It really makes for a nice character and story arc, and it doesn't ignore or change any of the previous events from the first 2 movies. So I'm, as being a big stickler on continuity, I really appreciate that. There's a few scenes that I did like and enjoy in this movie. Early on, the current ambassador ends up getting into a trance when he runs across a Rottweiler in the park, and he's put into this trance where he basically sets up his own suicide with this shotgun. Um, which they show on screen. I thought that was really well done, and it offered some suspense and kind of a what the fuck kind of moment. And then also there's towards the middle of the movie, there's a scene where Damien's sort of trapped by these priests that are trying to track him down and kill him. He turns the tables on him, including sending the dogs that he's been running with on one of the priests when he says, "Take him." That's the line from the movie. I thought those were pretty good scenes, somewhat suspenseful. So that kind of rounds out my pros, though, for the final conflict. Getting into the cons, a lot of this movie is just flat out boring. I'm sorry. I mean, I didn't feel that way about the first movie. Even the second movie, I felt there were a few boring parts, but this movie, the first half of the movie is just a lot of political talk and positions of power, and quite frankly, it's more of a political thriller and things that I just wasn't that invested or interested in. I really wish that really was hard to get through the first half of the movie in particular. So that's the first thing that jumps out at me at this movie. Also, when you have Damien as an adult, it kind of takes away from that creepiness, that horrific aspect of the killer, evil kid aspect of the whole Omen franchise. And even though Sam Neill does a really good job, and it's interesting to pick up with Damien as an adult, where he can gain some more earthly power and what that means, and the finality of it and everything. I just don't feel like the suspense or the buildup of tension or horror is there like it was in the previous movies, because Damien is an adult. You just don't have that extra layer, that extra aspect of the whole evil kid aspect. So that was definitely different in this movie, and not for the better. The final conflict of this movie, which of course the name of the movie is The Final Conflict, and unfortunately the final conflict was very anticlimactic, where Damien, through all this time in these three movies, was basically able to sense and stop and kill all the people, whether it be through nature or his disciples or followers. He was able to stop these people and kill them in their tracks from exposing him or stopping him. Where at the end of this movie, he basically turns his back and focuses on having dialogue with the statue of Jesus, and ends up just turning his back, and another character ends up stabbing him in the back. And it's like, really? That's how this whole trilogy is going to end? I don't know. I was really disappointed with the closeout of this movie. I thought it was very, very weak, and just disappointing. Very disappointing conclusion without a satisfying end to the trilogy. Another con I have, and this is more of a personal one, I didn't really care for the fact that the movie spent like 10 minutes showing babies being put in peril, where they're being killed in essence. I just didn't really care for that. It makes me feel uncomfortable, but not in a horror kind of fun way. I just really felt like it was unnecessary. And to me, it's a pretty big black eye on this movie. For me, again, I know this is a personal thing. I'm sure there's a lot of people that have watched this movie that didn't think twice about it. They might have been surprised that the movie went that route, that they went that dark. But for me, I just didn't think it was necessary. It just doesn't do it for me. I've never been a big fan of when they put kids in peril, unless they're evil kids. But then you're actually taking the innocence of babies, like newborns. Even where they turn down the oxygen in the hospital on some of them that are in like a prenatal. It's just yuck. So it's just unnecessary. I didn't like that. That's another con for me. I felt like the deaths overall in this movie, other than that shotgun one early on, were pretty meh. Especially from the first two movies. The on-screen kills just weren't that as executed as well, in my opinion. And then my final con is the pacing of this movie is just really not good at all. Like, the first half of the movie is really boring and drawn out, longer than it needed to be, with a lot of political talk and dialogue. And then the second half of the movie suffers as a result when we actually get into more of the Satan the Satan worshipping, and the final conflict, as the movie would subscribe. It ends feeling rushed, and a quick and cheap conclusion that, as I said earlier, just didn't work for me. I didn't like it at all. It wasn't satisfying at all. So the pacing was really off in this movie. So yeah, that's pretty much my review for The Final Conflict, Omen 3. Like I said, if you like the movie, that's great. It didn't work for me. I felt like it was a step down from the second movie, which was a step down from the first movie. I'm going to give this movie a 6 out of 10. I think Sam Neill does what he can with it. Um, I like the continued continuity of this trilogy and keeping those storylines. But this movie's boring, and the final conflict was really disappointing and not well executed, and the pacing is really off in this movie. So, 6 out of 10 for Omen 3, the final conflict from 1981. Go ahead and comment down below what you guys thought of this movie. Did you like it more than I did, less than I did, or about the same? Why not? Comment down below. Please like this video and hit the little notification bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming reviews for this series. And please be sure to subscribe to my channel as well so you don't miss any of my great horror content, not only the rest of this series, but what I have coming up pretty much the rest of this year, quite frankly. I have so much horror content for you guys. It's unbelievable. So stay tuned for that, but make sure yourself a subscriber so you don't miss any of that. But with that being said, I hope everybody's having a good start to the new year. I hope you're enjoying this Omen franchise review series so far. And as always, stay scared. Bye.